Okay, so in that video we saw the number 5 largest hub for sex trafficking in the country. And my next question for you is, who knows the number 1 hub in the USA? Nobody? Okay, it's actually Atlanta, Georgia, right here in our backyards. And Atlanta is not only the number 1 sex trafficking hub in the United States, but the number 1 sex trafficking hub in the continent in North America. And here we have a much more complicated problem to analyze. And in fact, we couldn't actually analyze this problem, nor should we here at an event like CoderFaire. But what I really want to highlight is there's a lot of other great nonprofit organizations who are doing a lot to analyze and work towards a solution for this problem. One that you might have heard of here, Nefarious Merchant of Souls, which is a documentary highlighting a lot of the exploitations of young women in the sex trafficking industry. There's also Youth Spark and Join the Movement. Youth Spark is a charity a nonprofit that we are currently partnering with at SEMADevelopment. And One Voice Atlanta is a nonprofit that was actually started by Brittany Mays, the president of SEMADevelopment, 4 years ago. It's a nonprofit as well as a prominent student organization at Georgia Tech. So what are some of the problems these nonprofits are having in tackling not only sex trafficking, like we saw in that video, but the numerous issues that we need nonprofits, in our society in order to try to tackle it. And one big problem, as we just saw, was a lack of awareness. No one in the room actually knew that Atlanta was the number 1 sex trafficking hub in the country. And it's very difficult to gain the kind of traction you need as an organization if there's not awareness about the issue you're trying to work against. And there's also a big problem with lack of funding, particularly with the economy, the way it's been the last few years. One of the things that has really taken a hit has been charitable donations to a lot of these nonprofits. And even though these nonprofits aren't getting their awareness and their funding out there, one thing that is not changing is the problems that these nonprofits are facing. So there we have it. We have 2 very different challenges, but I want to kind of bring them back side by side to pull everything into perspective and see how these challenges can actually, interrelate to create a cycle of actually solving each other. So just to recap, the first challenge we looked at was the challenge that developers face, which is they don't have the resources, motivation, and confidence that they need to actually get their apps to the market. And the second challenge we looked at was the challenge that nonprofits face, which is they have a problem getting enough awareness spread to their communities, and they also have a problem getting enough funding to work towards solving a lot of these issues. So how can we actually create a symbiosis of these solutions? Well, at SEMADevelopment, we try to partner together nonprofit organizations with mobile app developers working in areas such as a hackathon. And the idea is that the charity will provide the group of developers with the resources, motivation, and confidence they need in order to get their app to the market. And at the end of the process, the app will actually go to benefit the nonprofit organization. So the nonprofit organization will gain some access to a lot of funding and awareness through a mobile app. So to really try to continue to pull this into perspective, let's look back at our mobile app development supply chain. And remember, it was right here between stage 1 and 2 where we solve a lot of our problems kind of emerge for the mobile app developers. They lacked resources, motivation, and confidence. So let's break these down again, but look at them within the context of how a how partnering with a nonprofit organization could help address these issues. So the first one will be resources, and that's going to be where actually the nonprofit SEMADevelopment comes in and attempts to provide teams with knowledgeable people with a good deal of who have a good deal of time and talents to volunteer actually for the app. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail about how Development Volunteer Day can provide you with the resources you need as a group of mobile app developers to get your app to the market. Additionally, we have motivation. So I think a lot of people in this room would agree, when you're actually working to release an app, not only for yourself, for the benefit of having something out to the market, but for the benefit of a good cause, it's going to mean a lot more to you. There's going to be a lot more riding on the line, a lot more to sort of drive you to actually see this thing to the finish. And finally, we have confidence. At the end of the day, your app will matter, right? Because the hundreds, perhaps sometimes even thousands of people who rely upon and donate to the partnering nonprofit organization are going to download this app, right? And so when you're sitting there and you're developing this app for whatever reason, I know for a lot of people in this room that reason might be simply that you want to have an app that goes out and gets a lot of downloads so that when you go to a job interview, you can kind of show this off as a resume builder and say, listen, I've actually created an app using my skills, and it's downloaded this many hundreds numbers of time, and it's also raised this amount of money for a nonprofit organization. Could be kind of a cool thing to do. So anyways, this has been sort of an abstract look at how we create the solution, but what I want to do now is take a quick look at our case study about our first app called StoryTap, how we're using this model in order to make StoryTap a big success, and give you a better idea of how some of these theoretical concepts look when you actually dig down and start to work. So I want to take you to page 1 really quick, and that came at a hackathon that SEMADevelopment co-hosted with AT&T. And this hackathon occurred about a month ago, and during it we teamed up with a group of people, like you do at most hackathons, and we started that stage 1 brainstorming process and came up with an idea for an app called StoryTap that will use NFC, SMS, and some additional technologies in order to create an interactive story experience. So we were pretty excited about our idea. And we also, being SEMADevelopment and using our model, decided that we would partner with an organization called YouthSpark. And the way we would partner with them is we would tell stories about a lot of different things and actually allow people to even write in their own stories and do a lot of cool things. But to help YouthSpark raise a bit of awareness about their own issue, we are also writing in a story into our overall app about a few people who were child victims of sex trafficking, the kind of children that YouthSpark works as a nonprofit organization to benefit. And the idea is that by raising this awareness, we'll also help people, lead people to YouthSpark's website to donate to YouthSpark if they choose to, either monetary donations or donations of their time. And in addition to this, we plan to allocate a large number of the proceeds from the market directly to YouthSpark. Okay, so now we're into our development stage. So during our development stage, this occurred at the hackathon. We had 2 days of coding. It was awesome. We got a cool idea. We got ready to present it. We went up to the front and we presented our idea and we got second place, right? Which leads us to page 4, celebration. So here's our StoryTap team. We're pretty excited after having just gotten second place at the hackathon. And we have now also reached that area, if you remember from the supply chain, a big problem area, right? In between sort of that phase 1 and phase 2 development, where a lot of team-based ideas kind of don't actually make it to fruition. So we're into brainstorming stage 2 now. We're back to the drawing board, and this is actually where our team is today. So we have an awesome concept partially developed. We have a ton of work, and we needed to recruit more people to our weekly meetings. So we recruited more and more volunteers, and these volunteers were everything from coders to graphic designers or people who could draw, as well as a couple of people who actually had some experience with writing, professional writers to actually write stories, again, so that this could actually be an engaging app that people would want to be involved with. And so during this process, we decided, okay, what do we need? Well, we need people who can draw, like I said, for the actual pages of the story. We need people who can code in Titanium, which is a platform put out by Accelerator. It's kind of similar to something like PhoneGap. And these people need, in order to really understand Titanium, you need to learn that platform. And you also need a good understanding of JavaScript, which is the code that goes into it. And finally, a third big thing is we need people who can actually market this app. Right, so to fill our needs, well, we look around and we happen to be right here at Georgia Tech in Atlanta. We're a group of Georgia Tech students, and Georgia Tech is actually just a couple of blocks down the street for those of you who aren't from this area. And both Georgia Tech and Atlanta are loaded with a lot of developers and graphic artists who can be potential volunteers to help us make StoryTap a reality. So it's a great marketing opportunity, and it's also a great marketing opportunity for a lot of Georgia Tech College of Business clubs, people within the SEMADevelopment network, and also people within the Youth Spark network to come out and use some of their talents and their passions to actually help create something that's going to benefit society, which is sort of our big idea, right, for a Development Volunteer Day. And this is sort of the crux of how we plan to make the StoryTap model successful. And what we plan to do with our Development Volunteer Day is we plan to bring in coders with a knowledge of JavaScript and Titanium to come and have an opportunity to learn with our head developer, Robert Joseph. We also plan to bring in artists to have a passion for drawing to come and work with our lead graphic designer. And we plan to bring in some marketing people to come and work with Brittany Mays, our lead marketer for the project. And so the idea is to come and have a similar environment to a hackathon, but rather than people competing with one another in order to use sort of like the phase 1 development, it's everyone working in collaboration to complete the phase 2 development and actually have the app ready for launch on both the iPhone and Android platforms by the end of the day. Right, and so that's our general model, and the last thing I want to do is have a quick call to action. And here I just want everyone in this room to think really quick. Think that you are here because you have a passion for something, and that something is coding or development. Or maybe you have another passion. Maybe you're here because you actually enjoy marketing or you enjoy graphic design. And I want you to always try to think about ways that you can make that passion matter, because that's how you're actually going to turn that passion from something that you just enjoy doing into something that you're going to be able to use to make a living. You're going to be able to look back on years down from the road and say, I wasn't just passionate about development. I was able to actually do something with that passion that mattered, which is really important. And finally, if you're excited about our idea, maybe you have a nonprofit in mind, you want your mobile app to be the next StoryTap, or you want to get involved at our Development Volunteer Day, which is planned to come here within the next few weeks, then I'd love to sit down and talk with you. I'm here all day at CoderFaire, or you can send me an email at sean.williams@semadevelopment.com. That's Sean, SEAN, .williams, WILLIAMS, @semadevelopment.com. Thank you so much, and I'd like to open it up for questions.